I couldn't find information on how to install lift seals on this Rotary DTO 28H twin post lift that I installed myself in 1986 when I built my new shop. Now, this isn't all that hard to do if you're young and strong, which I am neither anymore, but it's a fairly simple, straightforward job. Before you start this seal installation, you need to determine whether you need the bushing at the top of each cylinder. There's a bushing below the seal, which I have never replaced. According to Rotary, my local Rotary business, which is in Newton, North Carolina, how to check that is to raise the lift, of course, with nothing on it, let it down about 2 inches, rock the lift plungers back and forth. If you see a lot of motion, and I can't give you details on this, if you see a lot of motion, you need to replace that bearing. Now, they call it a bearing. A bearing to me has rollers or ball bearings. This has neither. This would be what I would call a bushing. So my bushings were in good shape. The reason you need to determine whether you need the new bushings is because the seal kit is different with the bushings that you're going to replace. So you have to determine that first. Remove all the lift arms by lifting up and rotating and removing. Remove the 4 large bolts you see here on the twin post lift plate and remove the 2 nuts to the right on the equalizer bar. Release any air pressure you have in the system, and also make sure that the fluid lever is in the proper position off. You can see the data plate on the seal plate that goes above the seal that the 6 bolts retain. When this large heavy blue lift plate has been removed, you need to lower the plunger all the way down. If you don't, and you take this seal plate off, you're going to have a floor full of oil. So with the lift plungers all the way down, now you can remove the seal plate. I made this video as an afterthought, and I really didn't take enough photos. But you see the seal plate, the aluminum seal plate, it has 6 bolts. Once you have the plate removed with the 4 large bolts you see here, the upper lift plate, once that's removed, remove the 6 bolts holding the seal plate. Then you can pry up the seal plate, retaining plate, and you can lift out that seal, which is shown here, and there is a top and a bottom to that, and it is clearly marked as such. This seal comes with a long spring, and you need to install that in the proper groove and hook the ends together, as shown here. Years ago, when my seals were leaking, I removed the seal, and gunk and dirt had built up behind the seal, between the top of the seal and the spring, and I cleaned that out, and that got me by for a few years. But it may or may not work for you. And this is my lift oil tank that has a dipstick. I welded a nut to the plug to make it easier to check. Now, one indication that your lift oil is low is when you turn the air on, the air valve. The longer it takes, and you'll hear the difference, the longer it takes to fill this tank with air, the lower the fluid level. The fluid level needs to be slightly below the incoming air supply, which is over on my far left. An indication that your oil level is low will be that when you raise the lift, when it's almost completely up, it'll start making a hammering noise. The fluid control valve is on the left, and the air control valve is on the right. Now, I didn't have a muffler to put on this air valve, so I just vented it inside the cinder block, so it wouldn't make so much noise when I released the air. I made a piece of threaded rod and attached it to the fluid control lever on the left so that I could hold this lever all the way open and I didn't have to stand there and hold it while the lift went down. Here's another photo of that seal. I believe this is the top side. Like I say, it is clearly marked. This is the correct seal kit for my lift. Make sure that you go by the data plate on the seal retaining plate to be sure you have the right seal kit. Now here is all the information I had that came with this twin post lift, and the best way to view this, of course, would be view it on a large screen TV, because I doubt that you'll be able to read it on anything much smaller. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I couldn't find any information on how to do this, and so I decided to make a video, as I usually do when I can't find something on the internet to show me how to do something. I do need to mention this. When you remove the old seals, before you install the new seal, make sure there's no burrs or rust or scum around the upper end of that cylinder. Get it as clean as you can. Now when you put that seal over that lift plunger, you'll have to use a plastic tool to work that little lip carefully around the top of that plunger. Be very careful to use something plastic, something that won't do any harm, something very smooth. Don't damage your new seals. And by the way, this all went well for me. It didn't leak a drop, even with a Denali on it. It didn't leak a drop. I hope this seal replacement goes the same way with you. And these videos provide just a little bit of income for this old 77-year-old do-it-yourselfer. Thanks for watching.